Testimony continued today in the most notorious criminal trial in Richland County. Dr. John Boyle is accused of killing his wife Maureen and burying her body.
The 12-year-old son finally took the stand.
Boyle confidently told the jury it was his decision to testify against his father.
I heard a scream. I heard a thud. It was about this loud.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty.
I decided at an early age that our trauma should not be what defines us. It's what we choose to do with it that does. I'm here to share my unique perspective on true crime, mental health, society, and popular culture, and always with a slight sense of humor. I'm Collier Landry, and welcome to my show. Mover Nation, what's going on? Thank you so much to Kathleen Welsh, channel member, messaged me and said, hey, did you hear Diddy got arrested? And here we are. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. I think there's like a few of you all. Oh, there's like 49 of all. Hey, what's up? What's going on? Okay, so breaking news out of New York City. Diddy has been arrested on a federal indictment that was just handed down. You guys know I've talked about this for a while. I got a friend of mine who's a Fed. I'm going to text him a second because he told me months ago, he's like, they're coming for him. They're coming for him. I had Sonny Slaughter on the program a couple of months ago as well. And we discussed this because she's like, yeah, it's going down. So a lot of people predicted this. It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone who's got a pulse, but here we are. Welcome. So what's up, Juju for Freedom? What's happening? DefTube, how are you? Hi, Robin McBroom. So we're gonna get into this in 1 second. And I'm going to pull up. The New York Times is reporting this, and I'm going to save some stuff. Yeah, let's get into this. So New York Times is reporting this, just had it handed down. Sean Diddy Combs. I'm going to pull it up here on the other computer. Nope. Get the sound off. All right, let's check this out. So, gonna share this. All right, New York Times. Good thing I still subscribe to the New York Times. Okay, so Sean Diddy Combs has been arrested in Manhattan after a grand jury indictment. The music mogul has been under mounting scrutiny since a 2023 lawsuit by his former girlfriend, Cassie, accused him of trafficking and years of abuse. As we all know, this was a really, really bad scenario. That video came out not too long ago. If you guys saw that with the hotel attack, it was really, really awful. He just got hit with another $100 million lawsuit, I believe, the other day. So he's in a lot of trouble. I was sitting here doing a new YouTube banner for the channel. And yeah, Kathleen Welsh, who I believe is here. Thank you so much for texting me. This is what I get. This is what I get for turning my phone on silent and nobody can get a hold of me. And I just happened to check. I was like, oh, let me see what's going on in the world. There's a lot going on in the world, apparently. So Diddy, New York Times reporting, this just happened. Whoa, okay, yeah, like not even half an hour ago. Sean Combs, the music mogul whose career began, has been upended by SA lawsuits, and a federal investigation was arrested in Manhattan on Monday evening after a grand jury indicted him, according to a person familiar with the indictment, who is not authorized to speak publicly. Let's make this bigger. The indictment is sealed and the charges were not announced, but the person familiar with the prosecution said they believed Mr. Combs was being charged with racketeering and trafficking. A statement from Mr. Combs' legal team said they were disappointed with the decision to prosecute him and noted that he had been cooperative with the investigation and had, quote, voluntarily relocated to New York last week in anticipation of these charges. Sean Diddy Combs is a music icon, self-made entrepreneur, loving family man, and proven philanthropist who has spent the last 30 years building an empire, adoring his children, and working to uplift the Black community, the statement said. He is an imperfect person, but he is not a criminal. We saw him on video in the hotel that he paid to have destroyed, beating his girlfriend. That would be criminal activity. Let's call a spade a spade. A representative for the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York did not immediately respond to a request for comment on Monday evening. Mr. Combs, who's 54, is also known as Diddy, Puff Daddy, blah, 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 was a key figure in the global rise of hip-hop as a commercial force in the 90s and 2000s, helping making stars of rappers and R&B singers like Notorious B.I.G. and Mary J. Blige. He has been under intense public scrutiny since a former girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, filed a lawsuit last November, which they settled in one day, by the way, accusing him of years of sexual and physical abuse. Mr. Combs settled the suit with Miss Ventura in one day because, guilty people. Yeah. An R&B singer known as Cassie, who had been signed to Mr. Combs' record label in one day and denied any wrongdoing. One day. But legal pressure mounted over the next 9 months with the filing of 5 lawsuits by women alleging the same thing. 3 other sexual misconduct suits, all of which Mr. Combs' lawyers are fighting in court. Mr. Combs has been trailed by accusations of violence. This is the first time he is known to have faced a sprawling investigation. Well, this has been... I've talked about this a lot on the channel. Maybe I'll play one of my old videos with that interview with Sonny Slaughter where we get into it because... this has been a long time coming. I worked in Hollywood for a long time, and this has always been floated around in circles that he is a bad guy. There's been a lot of shenanigans, and here we are. Time to pay the piper, I suppose. Not good. But hopefully this brings some vindication to some of the victims. In March, federal agents raided Mr. Combs' homes in Los Angeles and Miami Beach, Florida, stopping him at a Miami area airport and confiscating his electronic devices. The authorities made no announcements at the time, but a federal official said that the inquiry was at least in part a human trafficking investigation. Federal prosecutors in New York had by that time interviewed a number of witnesses about sexual misconduct allegations against Mr. Combs, according to a person familiar with the interviews. Mr. Combs has vehemently denied the accusations in the civil suits, calling them, quote, sickening allegations from people looking for a, quote, quick payday. His lawyers have sharply criticized how the raids, which involved agents from Homeland Security investigations brandishing firearms, were carried out, calling them a gross overuse of military level force. Now, those videos are right here. We can play them. But yeah, they came at his home here in the Holmby Hills. I did a live when it happened. Was that March? When it happened, it was a big deal. All the helicopters, everything. Holmby Hills. I live in Santa Monica. Holmby Hills is like right there. It's a lot. It's a lot. The tone of defiance shifted after CNN published hotel footage in May that showed Mr. Combs physically assaulting and kicking Miss Ventura in 2016. Now, remember, his lawyer said he's not a criminal, but he was kicking and assaulting his ex-girlfriend, a defenseless woman. It's so bad. I don't really want to trigger people, but it's a bad video. If you've seen it, you know what it is. But maybe we'll play it just for posterity's sake. Let me know in the comments if you want to see it, which I should probably, I guess, look at. I have a lot of tabs open right now. Gen X to the 7th power. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Cat loves cat skills. Fed charges much different than state charges. Absolutely. This is not a good thing. State charges way different scenario than federal charges. It's not looking good. Diddy's lyrics did not age well. We date him like we hate him. We see him like we don't need him. We treat him like we beat him, and we never give up freedom. Wow. Hey, Marie Hathaway, thank you so much for the super sticker. I think I was going to watch Monday Night Football. I caught a little bit of it. This is way better. Thank you so much for hitting the like button. By the way, if you guys are, I don't know if I can actually trigger this. You're welcome, Marie Hathaway. Thank you for coming. What's up, Parker's Planet? He seems wild. I don't know what else is out there. Yeah, there's a lot of videos. There's just a lot of stuff with him. Dude is bad news, that's for sure. Bad news bears, as we say. Close out of some of these tabs. Let's see what else. Let's see who else is talking about this. I know Popcorn Planet was reporting on it, of course. I'm going to try to get rid of some of these tabs I have open. Sorry, guys. Let's see here. Let's go to YouTube. Let's see if anyone has any actual news footage. Diddy arrest? I doubt there was any. All right. And he was around. Okay, let's see what CNN has to say. All right. Probably gonna get dinged for this, I'm sure. Let's share this tab. Let's see what CNN has to say.
Diddy Combs has been arrested in a Manhattan hotel this evening after a grand jury indicted the music mogul. His attorney tells CNN that he is currently being processed. The charges are unclear as of this moment. Joining us now is CNN's entertainment reporter Elizabeth Wagmeister, and also with us CNN chief legal correspondent Ellie Honing. Elizabeth, you were a big part of revealing some details about Diddy's conduct in private over the course of the last couple of months. That video led to a lot more scrutiny on what he has been accused of. What do we know at this point about what this case might ultimately be about?
Abby, at the moment, we don't know what the charges are. I have information that he was arrested tonight at a Manhattan hotel. He is currently being processed. I heard from his attorney, they are still maintaining his innocence. They said that in anticipation of these charges that Diddy relocated to New York last week. And here's a statement that I have from his attorney. He says, "We are disappointed with the decision to pursue what we believe is an unjust prosecution of Mr. Combs by the U.S. Attorney's Office." He goes on to say that he is
unjust. That's rich.
Not criminal. Now, Abby, that video that you just spoke about was a few months ago when our team broke this disturbing video of Diddy violently assaulting his ex-girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, better known as the singer, her stage name, Cassie. Now, up until this is when we broke this video, Diddy.
All right, this is hard to watch, guys. So just trigger warning, just saying it. There you go.
Had denied the allegations against him. Cassie is one of 10 civil suits against Diddy, 9 of which he is accused directly of sexually assault. Up until that video, he denied everything. After that video came out, he changed his tone. He apologized for his conduct in that video. But I have to tell you, Abby, just as of last week, a former member of Danity Kane, which was one of the bands from making the band Diddy's show that was on MTV, she sued him for sexual assault and other disturbing allegations, and he denied that. So he continues the denials, and he still maintains his innocence, even though he has been arrested tonight.
And Ellie, not a huge amount of information available tonight, but Elizabeth brought up something that I want you to give us a little bit of insight into. Diddy is here in New York, in Manhattan. He apparently came here in anticipation that something like this might happen.
Yeah,
what should we understand about what that might mean? It could very well be that this is a federal arrest being processed here in New York.
So, Abby, there are some important things we do not know, including the specific charges that have been lodged against Sean Combs. But there are some really important things we do know. First of all, based on the attorney's statement, based on our reporting, this is a federal prosecution. It's not a state prosecution. The fact that he's being processed in Manhattan tells me that's the Southern District of New York. That's consistent with the reporting that the Southern District of New York had been handling this case. That's the office I used to work at. That's an office that sort of specializes in high stakes cases. Just in the last year or so, Southern District of New York, just as an example, has successfully prosecuted Sam Bankman-Fried, Senator Robert Menendez. The other thing that we do know is a grand jury has indicted Sean Combs, meaning they found probable cause that he committed at least one federal crime. Now, as to what happens next, there will be, likely tomorrow or within the next couple of days, but usually in the SDNY, you try to do it the next day, there will be an arraignment, meaning Sean Combs will appear in court with his lawyers. There are no cameras in federal court. He will be advised of the charges against him, and he will almost certainly enter a not guilty plea. But the key thing to watch for is then we'll have the question of bail. Will prosecutors agree to let him out on bail? Will prosecutors ask the judge to lock him up pending trial? That could end up in a contentious argument. So these are things that are going to play out over the next 24 or 48 hours. And finally, Abby, with respect to the charges themselves, it's important to note, we've all seen that video, but assault and sexual assault are not federal crimes. Those are prosecuted in state court. So what I expect to see when we see this indictment
it's racketeering.
Is some sort of crime with some element of organization to it, sex trafficking, something along those lines, if it's based on some of the allegations we've heard.
And of course, back in March, his homes in LA and in Miami were raided. All of this leading up to this moment. Elizabeth and Ellie, a lot more to this story will be coming up in the coming days and weeks.
There you have it. I just texted my friend who's a friend. Yeah, exactly. Gen X to the seventh power. And that's the thing I was explaining in my video. Yep, by us. There's my friend the Fed. He's like, oh yeah, we got him, but he told me this months ago. When did I see him? He was here in June, end of May, something like that. Yeah, he told me, he's like, it's coming down, man. He's like, he told me it's like they gray keyed the devices, which is, if you don't know what gray keying is when they cannot. So Apple, if you have an iPhone, Apple does not allow feds or anyone to get into your devices. They're pretty strict about that. So you have to gray key it using a hack and get into the phone to be able to go through it. One of the things is he was explaining, my friend was an agent in DHS in New York whose office handled this. He was not involved in this case though. But he said one of the things is he told me at the time, this was, like I said, 3 months ago, he said he doesn't know specifically what was going on, other than the fact that he said it was just like when they got R. Kelly. He said there was the level of like elation in the office of just like people were very confident. And as Gen X, the seventh power, said, if the feds are going after you and the feds arrest you, they don't just do that just willy-nilly. They have an airtight case and they have nothing but time. Let's play that interview with Sunny Slaughter. So Sunny Slaughter, if you guys are not familiar, she's here on YouTube. She is a commenter. Didn't you have a background training DHS agents, which is the P. Diddy investigation, the raids, the end of March. As I mentioned, I have friends in DHS and they don't have anything to do with the case, but their office is investigating it. Mm-hmm. And they told me, they said, the mood around the office is very jovial and it feels like when we got El Chapo or when we got R. Kelly.
So I've been commenting on this since day one. I am actually one of the original consultants on the Department of Homeland Security Blue campaign. I'm a globally recognized expert on trafficking schemes, not sex trafficking, but human trafficking in all forms. And as I have said, this case, and I have actually been the expert witness in high profile cases involving high profile individuals. This case is very methodical. There is Homeland Security.
Put out our video.
Then there's Homeland Security Investigations, HSI. That is a very unique and specific unit. That is not the same as when people say, I'm DHS Flexi. So the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. A lot of people then, when they say Homeland Security, they don't know that there are different segments of it. No, we don't all know each other. We don't always all talk. But the HSI component, I'm very connected to with folks and things not connected to this investigation. But clearly, they did not execute a federal warrant, multiple jurisdictions in the manner in which they did with HSI as the lead, because that's a very unique unit, like I said, without knowing that they got what they got. And they were going to get additional stuff. So this is not a new investigation. Yeah. Sean Diddy Combs' name has come up in other investigations. Mm-hmm. I know because I have worked some of those where his name has come up in those investigations. His name, along with other people's names that you see. When they went in, I know there were a lot of, and not to sound racist, there were a lot of Black people that were saying, oh my God, if he was white, this wouldn't have happened this way. They had tanks and everything. They went in, and did what they did based on the information that they had. This was not supposition. This was not a guess. This was very organized, very coordinated, very planned out, very detailed. They went in looking for very specific things. Whatever they found that was available out in public, they can grab. But they went in for a reason. They have so much video evidence to go through right now. There is tons of it. And as somebody who has watched reels and reels and reels, you want to be correct more than you want to be fast. This is happening. That's what I have said. My exact words. Oh, this is happening. There will be an indictment. There will be a lot of people. There should be a lot of people who are very worried right now. I'm not just talking about the high profile, folks, but anyone who could have been potentially been caught on those cameras at any given time over the course of decades, they should be concerned. These allegations are not new. They are nuanced. Even the millions of dollars, this wasn't a trigger from what happened when he settled that lawsuit, because I believe Diddy has been under surveillance and investigation since R. Kelly and other things. The same way with Cuba Gooding Jr. If you notice, Cuba had some other cases that started coming to light. Mm-hmm. This is a culmination of trafficking, exploitation, and not just sex trafficking, because there are a lot of elements that you have to prove when the person is not a child. So then they have to go back and look at all of those crucial elements of a person's testimony, if and when you can. But if not, you need to be able to move forward without all of that. Is Diddy going down? Yes. I think Diddy is going down. And what I said probably a week or two ago on Court TV was, when they roll the reels, it's going to get real. And then the video came out. So the video, what that does is that substantiates, even though it's too far, with the and for it to be charged in the same way, it establishes a pattern and practice of behavior that can then be solidified through video as truth. And then you have another allegation and you have more. So what they have to do is separate fact from fiction, those that want to become famous from all of that, and then get down to what's real. Because this is the federal government, like I said, does not play. They got time, they got money, but they also don't play when it comes to prosecution of cases. They want to build a solid case. And then there's also a lot of players involved. So, you've got local police, you've got to see what they have. If they've done any type of investigations, you want to look at that. You want to look at all of the other partners, because you see HSI, but then there's the FBI. Then you have postal services, because you're looking, and I know a lot of people forget, all of that comes into play. So there are people there from the IRS. There are people there from the postal office. There are people there from the FBI. There are people there from every facet of federal agency that can be connected potentially to any type of crime, from transportation to everything. That's a lot. So do it well, do it right, and they're not focused on public opinion.
It's a serious thing. One of the things that I don't think a lot of people understand is, and what is a bright spot for law enforcement, is people like Diddy, or what Diddy's being accused of, or people who are violators of these things. They are also collectors. Mm-hmm. They are collectors. They save everything because they want to see it. They want to revisit those moments. It's part of their manipulation and the way that and their control. They want to relive those moments, as you see with, CSAM and things of that nature, because they want to have that and share that. Yeah,
you're right. The collection of material is really high value, and it is really, really important. And it also allows you to identify, you have those that come forward, but there's always so many that never say a word. And, trying to find them. When you talk about child sexual abuse material, and, I do those cases too, those are very, very difficult cases, not just on the victims. And, people want them to go fast, but they are very difficult when you're having to go through all of the material to create the narrative, to ask the questions, so they are collectors. They like their souvenirs, and their souvenirs have long threads of history. And I'll say this really quick. You understand this as a survivor of harm. You don't want to, at some point, you don't want to be a victim anymore. You want to be not even a survivor. You just want to be yourself.
Correct.
And so there's so many stages. And when this material is out there and live, those that are the collectors get to re-victimize the individuals, but those that are the receivers of this information, who share and see and then share and see, that keeps people in survivor mode. Because we said this earlier, you could be doing really well and then something happens. So for those that have survived P. Diddy and all of these other folks, this is that whiplash, that thing that comes back to you years later when you thought that you were well beyond it, and then you find out, wait a minute, there's a video. So in some of my trainings, I have those words. What if there was no video?
Yeah.
You see that silence that happened just there between you and I? That's what it would be. But then when there is a video, and then we just started talking, that's what happens.
Yeah. And then the video, a lot of people were very mixed about it being released and people sharing it and everything, but it also seemed to prompt more people to come out of the woodwork and file more lawsuits. And also the public sentiment then turns to like, oh, this is a bad guy. This isn't just, he isn't a victim. He isn't, he's, obviously assassinated everyone's character down the line of trying to take advantage of him because he's the victim, much like any good psychopath or narcissist does. They're always the victim.
I do have to say, I am on the opposite side of one area that many people are. Just like in R. Kelly, I actually commented on that. I had stories in the news magazines about that. When people didn't play his music. So, R. Kelly, big black radio stations, they stopped playing the music and different things, like people stopped listening to it.
Jamie.
It doesn't, the behaviors of these individuals doesn't make them any less good at what they did, their craft, right? And the reason why I'm on the other side of not playing, when people are not playing the music and they are not involved in, and they are not getting the hits and things like that, they're not making money. They're not making money for themselves. There are a ton of victims that need the financial support and the resources. So any money is not being made by the individual who is now incarcerated. That money is then, can be used by the mountainous, the voluminous amount of victims for their long-term recovery, because it would go into, there is a victims compensation fund. And so the local police have, the local district attorneys have victims witness people, and then the states have the victims compensate. There's a victims compensation commission in every state in the United States, right? At the federal level, there is a victims witness coordinator. So all of the United States Attorney's Office, they have one, or, they share one, and they work, with the FBI, who does the investigations, the U.S. Attorney's Office, who does the prosecution. So they coordinate resources, services, and support for victims of crime, victims of these cases. And having that money is then anything that they have, becomes consumable and executable for resources for individuals in these cases. And so having those resources really allows them to do more. So when people are saying don't play the music, well, that's they're not getting the money. Yeah. So because anything that can be tied to the ill-gotten gains of their crimes, then it becomes part of their what is
Compensated.
seizable by the federal government. So,
That's a great point. That's a great point that's how that works. That, because I've even said things like that to people. Like, I don't want to hear that.
yeah. Okay. So the search and seizure. So there's a search. They call it the search and seizure. So there's a search and then there's a seizure where you determine.
Just a point to make. The point that I was making was, so Sonny is describing the fact that a lot of people, when these cases happen, they don't listen to the artist's music in protest, right? I've done that myself. I'm like, I don't want to hear that. I used to love R. Kelly growing up. I don't want to hear that music. I don't want to hear that music. The point that she was making in this particular interview with this particular segment is that it is okay to listen to the music because that money goes to the victims to help pay for victim services, to help pay for their recovery, to help cover their damages for the abuse that they suffered at the hands of the abuser. So because you're listening to the music and they're getting money does not mean it's going to them. It's actually going to the people who have cases against them, who have won judgments against them, and who are actively in recovery for the type of harm and abuse that they have suffered at the hands of these individuals. So don't stop listening to P. Diddy's music unless, of course, you don't like it. Do whatever you want. But don't do it on behalf of, because it actually ends up hurting the victims when you don't listen to that music, when it doesn't get played, because there's no royalties coming in, which goes to help these people. Violence Against Women Act was re-signed by our president last week. My friend Lenora Claire was out there talking about these same issues, and she's going back to the White House again in a few days. She told me, she just texted me earlier. Check it out, because and they talk about, as advocates, they talk about these issues all the time, because this is what goes to support these victims funds, because there's no money for this. I know a lot of people think that there must be these massive coffers of funds in the federal government and the state governments to cover people who have been victimized by violent crime or by trafficking or by abuse material, etc. And there's just not. There's no money. In fact, there's negative money for this type of thing. So the fact that you continue to play their music is what helps support these victims who've gone through this type of harm. So don't stop listening to the music is Sonny's point. And then we're going to get into this other part.
What all of the gains and everything were. So
that works. That, because I've even said things like that to people. Like, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah. Okay. So the search and seizure. So there's a search. They call it the search and seizure. So there's a search and then there's a seizure where you determine what all of the gains and everything were. So we don't want to.
Yes,
people say the music. People have a lot of different views about music and all of these other things.
Yeah,
they did what they did. They are the artists that they were the artists. They're still the criminals that they are. But and they committed the crimes that they committed. But don't do anything to take away from the benefit of the victims. Not just the ones that you know about, but those that have the potential to come forward in the future and their families.
That's great. That's great insight. I've never heard anyone explain it like that. And you wouldn't think about it. And that's, I think, people maybe trying to be sensitive, but also, that this goes to benefit those who are victimized, and the survivors. And that's wonderful. A wonderful thing.
Most of the time, people are not. Remember, I've done this work from the ground up, so I have had the opportunity to work to understand victims. I've worked with Victims Compensation Commission in various states. I understand there's a process, and this is not just for these particular cases. These are in homicide cases and other things. Help with burial, to help with cleanup. When there's a homicide at somebody's house, people don't know that part of the things that the Victims Compensation Commission can do is to help send someone out to do the cleanup of the crime scene, which is still some people's home. Otherwise, I don't know how people think this gets done, but the family is often responsible for that. So I get down, my work and my lens has always been to do this and to bring it down so people can understand. And I'm glad I had the opportunity to really kind of talk about that more fully. You don't need to cut off the resources that are necessary to help others later on. Yeah. You got to think this is a long game.
Yeah,
you and I know what a long game looks like. When you are a survivor of this kind of stuff, you and I know what a long game looks like. It's
we do.
not those quick resources that people think, oh yeah, well they've got a couple of dollars and they're going to heal. And yeah, therapy costs a lot and it takes a long time. You can go in and out. You know what I'm saying. So I just wanted to make sure that I said that I had the opportunity to say that particular thing to your audience so others can understand what the facts are. See, evidence and facts and reality matter. So thank you for the opportunity to allow me to say that.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, we'll remove that. There we are. A little bit about, thank you so much, Brian from LTL Media, for joining. Smash that like button. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Get that rest. You got more videos to make. I will be covering more of this because I've covered a lot of this already. Making sure I'm not on mute since I often sometimes am. Anyways, yes. So for those of you joining, P. Diddy has been arrested in New York, as I was sharing, on a federal indictment. I'll bring this back up. For those of you that are just joining us, welcome, welcome. This is the New York Times. Sean Combs arrested in Manhattan after grand jury indictment. So this has been a long time coming for those of you who've been following this case. I know a lot of people are like, oh, this is pretty suspect. No, this is what as Sonny Slaughter was explaining, the feds have nothing but time and resources on their hands. They can wait all day, every day for all of this to happen. They have no time constraints whatsoever. But yeah, he was just arrested. I'm so glad that I renewed my subscription to the New York Times. I only have my subscription to the New York Times, by the way, so I can play Wordle, so I can play Connections, so I can play the mini crossword, which I started doing now, and Strands, if you guys play that. It's a lot of fun. Today's Wordle word, I won't say it, but anyways, it was a good Wordle word today. So I'll go back to this article. So essentially his, as to be expected, his attorneys are, of course, nothing, nonsense. They're boohooing over all this, sickening allegations, etc. Just complete nonsense. For decades, Mr. Combs has been trailed by accusations of violence though this is the first time he is known to have faced such a sprawling investigation into his conduct over a period of years. In 2001, he was the subject of a heavily publicized trial over a nightclub shooting where he was acquitted on gun and bribery charges. That actually went, there was a rapper that was part of his record label named Shine who went to prison. And they claim that he went to prison because he took the rap for Diddy. I don't know. It sucks because Shine was a really awesome rapper, by the way, who's now a politician, and Diddy helped prop up his political career post-prison sentence, post-prison release. But also Jennifer Lopez had been implicated in that because she was there at the time. So those allegations had also come around full circle towards her as well. So we'll go to this article. So this was hip-hop star cleared of charges in a shooting at a Manhattan nightclub. So this is from March 17th, 2001. I remember this. I was like 19, no, 20, something like that. Manhattan jury acquitted the hip-hop mogul Sean Combs yesterday of all charges brought against him after a 1999 shooting in a nightclub in Midtown Manhattan that injured 3 people. Mr. Combs stood in a rumpled beige suit, visibly shaking as the jury filed into the courtroom, his hand tapping on the defense table, where he sat listening to testimony for the last 7 weeks. Because, of course, there was no YouTube channels to stream live, to stream the trial live. First, a gasp was heard and then a whoop went in the courtroom as the verdict was read. Mr. Combs, 31, was found not guilty of 4 counts of illegal possession of a gun and 1 count of bribery. Mr. Combs' protege, Jamal Barrow, 21, a rap artist known to fans as Shine, who was amazing, was found guilty of 5 of the 8 charges against him. Mr. Combs' bodyguard, Anthony Jones, was found not guilty on the charges of bribery and illegal possession of a firearm. Mr. Jones hunched forward as the verdict was read, and his lawyer, Michael Bachner, embraced him. Mr. Combs, escorted by court officers, later walked from the courthouse with his arm around his mother, Janice, who had attended the trial each day. A crush of supporters greeted him. In the glare of television lights and before a bank of microphones, Mr. Combs looked drained and somewhat subdued and said, "I give all the glory to God. If it wasn't for God, I wouldn't be able to walk out here," he added. "I want to thank my mother for being by my side every day." Yet, of course, he continued to behave very poorly, as we all know. Where was his mother when he was, I don't know, doing some nefarious, just, just horrific beating of his girlfriend in a hotel here in Los Angeles. Let's see. I'm trying to find this particular. This is the video of the raid. Let me see here. I'll open this. 100 federal officers. I will mute myself with this ridiculous shirt that I have on, by the way. There's some photos from the raid. This was at his house in the Holmby Hills. This was back in, there's his sprawling Holmby Hills estate. And that is the Holmby Hills, just so y'all know. Look at that terrible shirt. This is more of the raid footage that had happened at the time. And, there's the raid. They searched and, held his kids up. Oh, terrible. So this is I'm trying to find the rest of the. I guess there is no more raid shirt here. But let me try to pull up some other. Let me get rid of this bad boy. Remove from studio. There we are. Okay. Let's see here. Back to our article. Now, this was, as I said, from the New York Times. This is his, this was the nightclub arrest the nightclub shooting that he was arraigned for, on trial for. Mr. Barrow Shime Barrow, who was the one who went down for all of this. In response to shouted questions about the verdict against Mr. Barrow, Mr. Combs said, "I'm going to talk about all that later, but right now I just want to go and be with my kids." Later, someone who answered the door at his Upper East Side apartment building said that after the verdict, Mr. Combs went to a church in Westchester County. Mr. Barrow is accused of firing wildly inside the nightclub and injuring 3 bystanders during a fight in which a patron allegedly threatened him and insulted Mr. Combs. Mr. Barrow was acquitted of the 2 most serious charges against him, attempted murder and intentional assault in the first degree. He stared ahead with no reaction as the jury proclaimed him guilty of 3 lesser assault charges and reckless endangerment and criminal possession of a weapon. He was taken into custody. The verdicts ended a 7-week trial that produced the spectacle of two worlds in conflict, the gray bureaucracy of state Supreme Court in Manhattan and the flashy worlds of Mr. Combs, whose supporters filled the benches day after day. We'll see how many supporters Mr. Combs has in his upcoming trial on federal charges, although he'll probably, I would imagine, take a plea deal. He's probably looking at spending the rest of his life in prison if he's actually guilty. He's, what, a decade older than I am? Going away for a long time. Could potentially be going away for a long time. I would not doubt that. Pretty serious charges. As I said, my friend in Homeland said they've got him on some really bad stuff. Really, really bad stuff. If you are just joining, Sean Diddy Combs has been arrested under a federal indictment in New York. Happened about an hour ago, a little over an hour ago. In recent years, so this is back to the New York Times article that we were perusing. Oh, I guess I should share this tab instead. Back to the New York Times article. We can listen to this article that was published, a little over an hour ago. And he was arrested. So in recent years, he adopted a new persona, asking people to call him Love, naming his newest daughter Love and titling his first solo studio album in 17 years, the Love Album, Off the Grid, which he released independently under a new label, Love Records. Last year, Mr. Combs was just coming off a swirl of positive publicity tied to that album and his long career in music when Miss Ventura filed a suit with detailed and disturbing allegations stretching over more than a decade. This wasn't new for a lot of you that may be going, why is this happening now? This dude's been getting away with this shit for a long time. Her complaint included accusations of sex trafficking and said that Mr. Combs had forced Miss Ventura to have intercourse with male prostitutes in front of him and instructed her to use websites and escort services to find prostitutes or sex workers to participate in drug-fueled encounters called freak-offs. Wow. Mr. Combs has decided to settle only Miss Ventura's lawsuit. His legal team has fought the rest in court, painting the allegations as false stories drummed up to secure settlements. In court filings, his lawyer said that a lawsuit accusing him of participating in a gang R-word, because we have to say these things on YouTube, in 2003 had single-handedly irreparably damaged Mr. Combs' reputation on the basis of rank, uncorroborated allegations. And after a male music producer accused Mr. Combs in a lawsuit of making unwanted sexual contact with him, a lawyer for Mr. Combs called the plaintiff a liar whose accusations were, quote, pure fiction meant to garner headlines. Since those lawsuits were filed, much of Mr. Combs' brand portfolio has fallen apart. He sold his stake in Revolt and his share of De Leon Tequila, a partnership with the spirits conglomerate Diageo. A New York charter school network ended its partnership with him as well. This month, Mr. Combs' mansion in the ritzy Holmby Hills neighborhood of Los Angeles, where federal agents carried out a raid in March, was listed on the real estate market for $61.5 million. Now, why did he probably put that mansion, which we had photos of, why did he potentially put that mansion up for sale? Do we wonder? Probably because he knew he was going to need some sort of legal fund, I'd imagine. That's what I would say. But you never know. You absolutely never know. But, oy vey. He's in a lot of trouble, guys. If you didn't know, dude's in a lot of trouble. Dude is in a lot of trouble. I'm trying to find some photos of Diddy's mansions, but I guess I can't find them. I had a nice little document and everything all made up. I guess not. Oy vey. Anyways, Bloomingdale's. Look, can you guys tell where I shop? Can you guys tell which ads target me? Okay, here we go. We can just pull this up. There it is, right there. There is the listing on Zillow. Diddy's home, $61.5 million. This is quite a spread, though. I'll tell you what. There we go. Share this tab instead. Here we go. Zillow. There it is. Back to the listing. $61.5 million for Diddy's mansion. 10 beds, 13 baths, 17,000 square feet. It looks pretty lovely, though. I've seen this in magazines before. It is a beautiful home. That's for sure. Does it come with the furniture, I wonder? There's the overhead shot of it. Holmby Hills is one of the most wealthy neighborhoods in the United States, if not the world. Aaron Spelling's house historically sold there for $130 million, I believe, is what his mansion is. And a friend of mine lived around the corner from all these characters for years. Had a much smaller house worth many millions of dollars, but much smaller than these. We'll scroll through this one more time. We'll live vicariously through. This is what evilness gets you, apparently. The devil buys nice things. Oy vey. If anything deserves an oy vey, this does. There's where the federal agents pulled up in the video I was just sharing. Yeah, I wonder why he listed that. Probably because he needs a legal fund. Combs sold his share of tequila brand for $200 million. That was earlier this year. Sold his stake in the Tequila de Leon for... Now he's going to need all that money. And all that money will not buy him his freedom. It will not buy him his freedom. And he's going to have a really rough time. It's going to have to buy him a lot of protection in prison, though. That's for sure. Whew. 50% stake for $200 million, approximately. That's just wild. Anyways, this is the article. I'll continue reading here. Oh, yeah, here's his love album, Off the Grid. Doesn't need to ask anyone for anything. Oh, boy. The music mogul has a new album, a new psychedelics fueled self-image, and a fresh sense of purpose. Yeah. If you want to get to the studio at Sean Combs' house past the purple Anish Kapoor sculpture, then saunter into the living room, stopping to marvel at the Kerry James Marshall's pastimes, a startling painting reckoning with blackness, wealth, and leisure that Combs bought at auction for $21.1 million in 2018. Next, glide through a conspicuously undisturbed dining room where Generette chairs are lined up like sentries on either side of a long table. Step out into the backyard and head left past the generous pool into one of the secondary structures on the property. Upstairs there one Tuesday afternoon last month, Combs was pacing a tasteful, lounge-like room and chatting on speakerphone to Funk Flex, the long-standing master of ceremonies for New York's Hot 97 radio station, spreading the good word about his return to music. There was some talk of a possible event they do. You think I'm going to say in the VIP? Combs yelped, mock incensed. I done created the VIP, expletive, the VIP. I want to touch the people. I want to feel alive. Well, guess what? You're going to feel alive when you're in prison. Weesh. Just gross. In the Me Too movement and its aftermath, prosecutors have increasingly turned to sex trafficking lawsuits to try sexual assault accusations in federal court system. The first conviction of R. Kelly, the R&B singer, who was on charges of racketeering and violations of anti-sex trafficking law known as the Mann Act. Homeland Security investigations, which often investigate sex trafficking cases, led the inquiry into Mr. Combs, as Sonny Slaughter said a few months ago in this episode that I just played. The March raids were announced to the world in a television news footage of agents converging on Mr. Combs' sprawling Los Angeles mansion and carrying out electronics. The mother of one of his sons later shared footage of agents pointing guns at Justin and Christian Combs while they were being detained inside their father's home. Since then, federal prosecutors have been silent, quietly delivering subpoenas to potential witnesses as they built their case against Mr. Combs. Again, Sean Diddy Combs arrested in Manhattan after a grand jury indictment was handed down. Crazy, crazy stuff. Let's see what else is happening. We'll go back. Rolling Stone reporting. Let's see TMZ. Let's see if there's some see if TMZ. Oh yeah, here's a little breakdown of everything with TMZ. Good old TMZ. What did we do without TMZ? Diddy arrested by feds again in New York after grand jury indictment. So just a couple of hours, Diddy. Okay, so there's the update. Just a couple of hours before Diddy got busted, he was confidently strolling around NYC with his son, King Combs, even stopped to greet some fans and take selfies. Maybe this was the strolling with his son. However, U.S. Attorney in 7:13 p.m. Pacific time, a law enforcement source tells TMZ that Diddy's arrest was scheduled for Tuesday, but something happened that caused the feds to move in a day earlier. I wonder what that is. However, U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said federal agents took him in based on a sealed indictment filed by the Southern District of New York. Southern District of New York, as Sonny Slaughter had said was probably happening 3 months ago on my show. On this show right here that you're watching. She said it. We just replayed it. Diddy was arrested and taken to federal custody in New York on Monday night. Sources say Homeland Security swooped into a Midtown hotel late Monday where Diddy was staying, and they arrested him. We have unconfirmed reports the feds were searching his hotel room. We are told that Diddy was taken to the FBI field office in Manhattan. This was the feds on the scene. This was at his Holmby Hills residence when federal agents came back in March. Oh, yeah, there's one of his sons right there. Being detained. Man, these photos must have been worth a pretty penny. Wow. It appears the action was taken in connection with the ongoing criminal investigation, alleged sex trafficking and other offenses issued in his homes in Miami. Diddy's attorney tells TMZ that we are disappointed with the decision to pursue what we believe is an unjust prosecution of Mr. Combs. Do they say that with a straight face, I wonder? There is hotel video that was released by CNN of him senselessly beating and kicking his ex-girlfriend and then dragging her down the hall, which is the worst part. Dragging someone. It's just so foul. Anyways. Diddy, this was on... Why is this coming up all weird? He was fighting it back against the $100 million judgment levied against him this week. Where are all these characters? The 333, all this nonsense. I don't know what's going on with that. Controversial music mogul filed an emergency motion to set aside the massive judgment Thursday, saying the plaintiff, Derek Lee Cardello Smith, never served him with a lawsuit, and he didn't know he had to handle the matter until news outlets started reporting on the judgment. Oh, come on. And of course, they didn't serve him. Of course, he says that they didn't serve him. Ridiculous. Worth noting, Diddy's lawyers are not just trying to get the case thrown out for failing to serve him properly. They're denying all wrongdoing wholeheartedly. They say the factually implausible allegations are completely fabricated. Sorry, there's like characters in this. If you guys can see this on the screen, there's like numbers in the middle of these words. Even if the allegations were true, which again, Diddy's lawyers say they aren't, they say the statute of limitations ran out 3 years ago, or ran out nearly X years ago. Diddy's team is also slanting the lawsuit as frivolous because they say the man who filed it is a convicted R-word who is lying on all the allegations in the lawsuit. They also claim that he has a history of filing lawsuits in court labeled as frivolous. Well, he's filed one, and Diddy is in custody. So there you have it. All right, movers. We get through this extra special live. Well, you got to serve someone when you serve them properly, and then you have to file paperwork that says they were served properly. I have done some process serving recently. I have done some serving of paperwork to people recently, and it has been a whole experience, which I have documented for this channel, which I will be sharing those videos soon. If not on the whole channel, but also in the member section. It's been a very interesting experience. I did it about 5 times. And then you got to file paperwork. You got to follow up and say, I served this person. You got to go down to the courthouse. It's a whole pain in the ass. Can't do anything electronically. But you can file, if someone is living in the home, you can file it with their kids or their spouse or whoever lives at their home. You say, you've been served. So it's a whole thing. But I've had quite an experience. I have outfits. Did FedEx guy, lawyer. What else did I dress up as? It was fun. It was a lot of fun. I do it just for the stories. I was going to call it Respect the Process. Anyways, my stories of the process serving. Mover Nation. Yes, it is. It is very scary because used to be a tow truck driver who had to repossess vehicles. Yikes, so scary. Please be careful. Yes, it is. It is a thing. I wanted to do it for the stories, have an experience, but I was serving restraining orders, which is the most dangerous thing. And I did it for some famous people too, actually. Restraining orders, and that's a little hairy. It's not like serving someone divorce papers or there's all kinds of things you get served with. It's not always bad. It's like you have to serve paperwork because it has to be served, because it has to file in court. So yeah, anyways, but yeah, it can be a little hairy with the restraining orders. They don't like that. I had to chase a guy in a garage and all this. Oh, it was wild. Got a drone out. Did a little surveillance to see if they were home. Yeah, it was great. Anyways, yeah, I should go live when I do that, except for the fact that that's totally illegal. You can't film, because I was like, oh, I'll wear a body camera. They were like, the lawyers were like, you can't do that. That's against the law. Then we get our lawsuits thrown out, and then we won't get the restraining order. I was like, oh, okay. Here, I thought I could have a body camera, put my little GoPro and attach it and be like, see, you've been served. You've been served. You've been served. You got served, man. All right, Mover Nation, we get through another one. Thank you very much. Special live breaking news. Sean Diddy Combs arrested in Manhattan. While I'll be following this up, you'll be hearing from me tomorrow. We'll find out more in the morning. I probably won't sleep. There we go. Of course, I'll sleep. And check out the channel. I'll throw up some more videos and kind of like that. On that note, hey, Mover Nation, we get through another one. Here's the outro. Mover Nation, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much to all my channel members and Patreon supporters. And for more exclusive content, behind the scenes videos, monthly VIP meet and greets, and watch parties, please consider supporting me on Patreon or by becoming a YouTube channel member. If you like this video, check out this one right here or this one right here. And don't forget to like and subscribe because it helps with the algorithm. On that note, I'm Collier Landry. I'll see you on the next one. Good girl, Marisol. Good girl.